So using StatKey to find p-values is great, but of course we want to understand what we're going to be expected to do in testing situations and such where we don't have software readily available to us. And for that we have this small table here which doesn't allow for nearly as precise an estimate of a p-value, but it generally does give us enough information to work with for the sake of a conclusion. So the z statistic that we just found in the previous example was 2.18. Here's the way we would use this table. I would first focus on the line where it says normal z. This is saying for any z, what we might call a critical value. Those are some cut values that we use that are specifically chosen to give us these particular tail areas. We're going to see which one it's closest to or which two it falls between. So looking at these, we can see that between 1.96 and 2.326 makes sense for our z. So 2.18 is between these two values. Now, as we read upwards, we want to look at the labels over here on the left. Out of middle area, two tail area, and one tail area, it seems like one tail area is what we want. And so I'm going to come over from one tail area and find that intersection. Therefore, these are the two values that I know my p-value is between. So my p-value, whoops, I still have a wide marker there. My p-value is between, these are always written in decreasing order as we read from left to right, and I find that it makes more sense to write them in increasing order. So I always put the one on the right first. It's between 0.01 and 0.025. If I look back at my previous notes or even just at my distribution in StatKey, which I happen to still have up, I see that the actual p-value was 0.015. So just with a quick check, I can verify that that is between these two values. And I can also see that that would be sufficient information to get a conclusion, because the breakpoints for the way I describe strength of evidence are generally 0.01, 0.05, and 0.10. So as long as it's not going to be so ambiguous that I can't tell whether it's above or below one of these, then it should be fine. In this case, I can tell that I fail to reject at the 0.01 level, but that I do reject at these levels, the 0.05 and the 0.10, and so this would still get me the same conclusion of strong evidence, etc. So yes, it is sufficient information to get a conclusion from a hypothesis test. We don't need a super accurate p-value if we can still get the same conclusion from it. So what I recommend doing on your homework problems is, even though you might need to use StatKey a fair amount, especially for your Wiley Plus questions, which are looking for a specific p-value, first go to Table A before you go to StatKey and come up with bounds just for your own practice, because this is what you're going to be doing on tests. Then go to StatKey and get your p-value and use it as a check to see that it is in fact between those two bounds.